Daf Pei Aleph, Amud Aleph, we'll begin Daf Pei Amud Beis, 2 lines from the bottom. We're holding in the middle of the sugya on whether or not the tzitz is marasa for tumas tahaim for the kohen is doing the avodah. We learned that the tzitz is marasa on the tumah of the korban, but not on the tumah of the mailim, but on tumas tahaim, an unknown tumah, it is marasa. The question is it also matama for the kohen who does the avodah? We want to bring a raya from what it says is that the Brisa says that lo yomer tumas tahaim elo l'meis b'lvad. It's only mentioned for a tumah of meis. What is that coming to exclude? So we said it must be coming to exclude the tumas sheretz, and the tumas sheretz. Well, if you say the sheikhim zarkim al tumas sheretz for korban pesach, then it's not negeya, and it must be therefore referring to the kohen. And it's saying that the tzitz is not maratze for the tumas tahaim of a sheretz. That's only for meis, but therefore that implies that for the tumas time of a meis, then it is maratze for the kohen. So therefore we wanted to bring a raya that it is maratze for the kohen. The Gemara says no, it's not a raya. It's not a raya that it's talking about a kohen, because we can be talking about the Tumah Ziva. And what it's saying is, it's talking about the Korban Pesach, and it's Meratze for the system Meratze for Tumas Tahaim of a Mez, but not for Ziva, not for Tumah Ziva, not of an unknown Tumah for Azov. If a person became Tumah through Ziva, there it's not Meratze. It's not maratz for him, but it's not referring to a kohen at all. So that's the background of our discussion. Frank the Gemara, v'tumas tahaim deziva le'maratza. Well, is it true that the tzitz is not maratza for the unknown tumah, the tumas time of a zav? Is that true? V'atanya, we learned in the Brisa of Yesi Aimer, shemeres yom keneged yom. If a woman is shemeres yom keneged yom, what is that? If a woman becomes a nida, she has a riyas dam, she becomes a nida, she's tmeya for 7 days. After the period of her nida, for the next 11 days, she is called a zova. That's a period of time which is a zova. If she sees 1 or 2 re'iyas, she's a shemeres yom keneged yom. She's tmeya, but then she has to, after that, she has to observe 1 clean day. And if she has one, the next day is completely clean. Then after that, then with the tefillah, then she is tahira. If she sees 3 consecutive days, she's a zava gedola, and then she's not tahira unless she has 7 clean consecutive days. Shiva nekiyim. She has to have 7 days, which are consecutive days, which has no re'iyah. And after that, she's tahira, she's a muteres labala, but on the 8th day afterwards she has to bring her korbanos. But in a case where she is a shemeres yom keneged yom, so she's a shemeres yom keneged yom, where she only has to observe 1 clean day. Sheshachta v'sarko aleha, they shachted and they did the shrit of the korban pesach on her behalf, b'sheni shelo, on her 2nd day. Meaning, so she had a re'iyah. Now she is observing the clean day, the day that this has to be clean. If she completes this day without a re'iyah, then she's tahira, and the korban pesach was done for her while she was tahira, and she can eat the basar, she can eat the korban pesach on that night. But v'achar kach also. But later on that day, she had a riyas adam, so they already did the shlit and the zrikah on her bath. And after that, later in the day, she had a riyah. She can't eat that night. She can't eat from the korban pesach because she's tmeya. But a patur malasas pesach sheni. But she doesn't have to do a pesach sheni because we say at the time that they did the shlit and the zrikah for her, at that time she didn't yet have a riyah, and therefore it is the kosher, the korban pesach is kosher. My taima, what's the reason? La mishum the meratzet is. What's the reason? Isn't it because the tzitz is meratze? Meaning, when she had the Riyah later on the day, it turned out that the Mafreya was she was Tamei, but we didn't know about it. But it turned out that she really was still a Zova. So why is the Korban Pesach kosher? Isn't it because we say that the tzitz is maratza? So don't you see that the tzitz is maratza for the tumas of time? Gemara says, no, Amri Loi. That's not the reason. It's mishum tekasava Rabbi Yossi mikanu la'aba hi matama. It's not because the tzitz is maratza, and maybe I'll tell you that the tzitz is not maratza for tumas ziva, for the tumas of time for ziva. Why was the Korban Pesach kosher? Because Rabbi Yossi holds that she only becomes tameya from the time that she sees the re'iyah and onwards. So therefore, when she had the first re'iyah, then she stopped and she didn't see further, and during that day she didn't have a re'iyah. So therefore, at that time, we say she was tahara. Now, when she had a re'iyah later on in the day, according to Rabbi Yossi, it's not the pshat that we say, therefore, limafreya is huver davar, that we now are aware that she was always a zava and that she did not cease her zivus. No, we say that this is a riyah, and from now on she has a new zivus. It's not connected to what she was a zava beforehand. So, if she had a riyah, and then the next day, which is Yudalit, so she was titled. She went to the mikvah, so she's to hire. According to Rav Yossi, that we say that the mikvah yom is kekulah, and then she's to hire at that time. The fact that she has a re'iyah later on, that's not l'mafreya. We don't say that connects with the previous re'iyah, and therefore, at the time she did the Korban Pesach, she was to hire. But she can't eat at night because now she's tamei. But it's nothing to do with it just being maratza. Frank Zigmar, how can you say that? Valtanya, we learned the rights of Yossi Aimer, Zav Bal Shtei Riyas. If the Zav was Bal Shtei Riyas, the Zav is also similar to a Zava, with a difference in it. The Zav, if he sees one Riyah, he's only a Tomei Shemer Yom Keneged Yom. He's only has to keep 1 day of Tahara. If he sees 2 consecutive Riyahs, then he's Tomei for 7 days. But he doesn't have to bring a korban. If he sees 3 consecutive days, then he also has to bring a korban. So it's a zav bal shtei riyos. Shazar shachtav zar kala b'shvi shalai. Now he has to keep 7 consecutive clean days, but it was the 7th day, and now he's on the 7th day, and he was taival, and they. Later on in the day, they shechted. In the afternoon, they shechted, and they did the zrika from the Korban Pesach. And after the Korban Pesach, he had a riyah. And similarly, by a woman who's a shemer shem keneged yom, they shechted the Korban Pesach on after she had already the day. She was in the day of her what she was observing the Tahara. So, also, and after the tefillah and after the shlit and zrig of the Korban Pesach, there was a re'iyah. They are metama mishkav v'maishav l'mafreya retroactively. Whatever they sat on, the chairs, the couches that they lied on, they're metama retroactively. Mishkav v'maishav is by the zav and azava, that even if they didn't touch these items, but are the things that are made for sitting on, reclining on, lying on, that whatever is underneath them, whether they came into contact or not, if there are 10 pillows, one on top of each other, if they sat on the top one, the bottom one is tame. It has this din of mishkav maishav, and we see over here that the metama lemafreya upetur melasas pesach sheni, but they're patrum pesach sheni, even though the metama lemafreya, but at the time that they were sheikh and zayrik for them, and we say that the korban is kosher. Now, if they're metama lemafreya, so the metama lemafreya, why is the korban kosher? Must be that the tzitz is maratza and tumas tahim of ziva. So you see over here that Rav Yossi does say it's metama lemafreya, so it must be on account, therefore, that the tzitz is maratza, and that's why the korban is kosher. Then what is this Omri? They say, Maila Mafreya is midrabanan. This is midrabanan. It's a din the rabbanan Chumra D'Rabbanan. But the Raisa, Rav Yossi holds that it's only Mikanol Haba. So therefore, the fact that the Korban Pesach is kosher is not because the tzitz is maratza, it's because they're only mitama Mikanol Haba after the Korban was already brought for them. Rav Yossi also holds that it's the Rav Yossi meant that it's the mafrei is only midrabanan, but midraisa holds mikanol haba mitana. Sani we learned in the Brisa, Rav Yossi Aimer avzav shara b'shvi shalois eiser shalafonim. He says azav the raw and the seventh day was tahara with the shiva nikiyim. It seiser the shalafonim. It nullifies, it cancels the preceding 6 days. V'amar Rav Yochanan lo yiser el yamer. And Rav Yochanan says it should only cancel out that 1 day. So, frankly, Gemara, what does that mean? How can it only cancel 1 day? If Rav Yochanan holds that the Zav is Matama L'Mafreya, that really comes Tomei. It says, therefore, it shows that he was a Zav from beforehand, also that he never left his Ziva, and it's Matama retroactively. Afilu Kulanisr should cancel out all the preceding days. And Ikasavar Mikanul Haba Umatama, and if he holds that it's not only Mikanul Haba, even that day it should not cancel out. We say he only comes Tameh from the time he has he saw the Riyah, from the time he had the Riyah and onward. So even on what happened prior, what he came into contact with previously, prior to the Riyah, it should not be Matama. Rather, what Rav Yechon meant to say is lo yiser v'lo yoyma. It's not, it doesn't cancel, and even that day, it doesn't cancel. It only is matama from the time of the Re'iyah and onwards. And Rav Yossi said, Rav Yossi holds like you. What do you mean? He has said that it's Rav Yossi says matama mishka meshel mafreya. We learned that he says l'mafreya ela shmamina matama l'mafreya midrabanu shmamina elamai. Rav Yossi also must have understood that when Rav Yossi said is matama l'mafreya retroactively, he meant midrabanu it's retroactive, but he held that Rav Yossi held midraisa it's only mikan ulahabo. The Gemara, well, now that we mentioned Rav Yossi is now it says that it's mikan ulahabo, Rav Yossi hashta dam mikan ulahabo mitama. Now that he says it's mikan ulahabo, so if that's the case, l'meis bilvad lemutimai. What is the case? We're saying that when we say that it says marasa, and we brought the brisa where we wanted to bring the raya, and we said that lo yehutra tumas at a time that it's only hutra l'meis bilvad. It's only hutra for the meis. What is it coming to exclude? If it's not coming to exclude a tumas ziva, because we're saying that the ziva is only mekanol haba. So what is it when it said that it's only lameis? What is it coming to exclude? But it says layomer tumas time ela lameis bilvad. Lameis to exclude what? Well, if it can't exclude ziva because ziva is mekanol haba, so it's not relevant to that case. What does it come to exclude? What's saying meis? But what is it not maratza for? So must be na nishamina, must be that nishmi that the kohen, we're talking about a kohen, and we're talking where the kohen became tomei, and that he became tomei with a tuma, and it's only for a meis bilvad, and not for a tumas sheretz. That if the kohen became tomei on a tumas sheretz, the tzitz is not maratza for that a tumas atoim, but it is maratza. Let us make a diuk that it is maratza for the tumas atoim of ames, lemes bilvad. But let us bring a raya, like we suggested to begin with, that therefore the tzitz is maratza not only with the balim, where the owner became tama with a tumas atoim, but where the kohen also became tama with the tumas atoim. Mor says no. We're not referring to the case of the kohen, and really I'll tell you that the kohen, the tzitz is not maratza for the tumah of a kohen, even the tumas atoim. It's only for the balim, and it's talking about the korban pesach. And we're talking where the Baal became Tommy. If he became Tommy with the Tumas Mes, it's Maratza for the Tumas time of a Mes. But the Bryce meant, but it's not Metama for the Tumas time of a Sheretz. And we asked before, if you hold that Sheikhtim V'Zarkim on a Tom of Tumas Sheretz, then you don't need the tzitz to be Maratza. If you hold that, since the Tumah of Sheretz, a person is only Tommy for that day, he's going to be Torah on the night time anyway. By the time it comes to the Achil, the Korban Pesach, in any event, even if it's a Tumas Vadai, you can be Sheikhet and Zarek for the Tumah of Sheretz. The Gemara says, because over ain't Sheikhet and Zarek Maltamei Sheretz. It's going according to the Mount Doma that says no, that you can't Sheikhet and Zarek the Korban Pesach for someone who's Tommy Tumah Sheretz, even though that by nightfall he will be Torah. Because right now he's Tomei, and and therefore it has to teach me and tell me that in the case where it's a Tumas Tahim for Sheretz, it's not Maratza either. If it would be a Tumas Vadai, it's not Maratza, according to this Mandama. And it's telling me that even if it's a Tumas Tahim, it's not Maratza. Back to Gemara, now that we discussed the Shita of Rav Yossi, well, Gemara is analyzing that Shita. Well, if we're saying, according to Rav Yossi, that it's only Metama, the Zav, and the Zav, they're only Metama, Kanol Haba, well, how do you ever have a case of Zav Gemara? Now, to be a Zav Gemara, there has to be 3 consecutive Riyas. If you say that each time that there's a seeing of a Dam, or seeing of the Zivus, that any time there's a Riyah of that, we say it's not Megala that they were always a Azava, and it's not Mitzdarif to the previous Riyah. We say it's Mekanul Hava. How are you ever going to have 3 consecutive Riyahs when there is a Riyah number 1, Riyah number 2? Well, they don't join. Riyah number 3, we say after Riyah number 2, it stopped, and this is a new Riyah. So each Riyah is independent. How do we have 3 consecutive? We say that, it's only Mikanol Avomitame. It's something new. It's a new Riyah. Where do you have 3 consecutive Riyahs that we should say it's a Zava Gedoyla, and therefore it's Tomei, and for 7 days, and you have to bring a korban? So, more answers b'shefas. It's talking when the Riyah was consecutive, there was never a break. She was a constant flow. So there's a constant flow for 3 consecutive days. So there, it's clearly all joined together. It's one long Riyah for 3 days, and that's considered a Zava Gedoyla. Or Iboy Sema, alternatively, I'll tell you, that she saw for 2 consecutive Beinash Moshes periods. Meaning that she saw in the period of Beinash Moshes, it's not clear if that period does it belong to the previous day or to the next day. So if she saw first day Beinash Moshes, so she saw the entire Beinash Moshes that period. So therefore, part of that Beinash Moshes is the prior day, part is the next day. So that's 2 days. Now, even if she doesn't see the entire next day, but she already had a Riyah part at the beginning of that day, so that can't be considered to be one of the days of Nikiyim. That's the day of Riyah. Then if she sees the next Beinash Moshes, then part of it is for that day, part of it is for the next day, and therefore you have 3 days where it's counted as 3 days of a Riyah. Even if it's not consecutive for 3 days, but it will be counted as 3 days of a Riyah. What about the Kayan that is doing the Avodah for the Tomid, and there's a Tumas time, it's Maratza? If you say that the Kayan who's doing the Avodah for a Nazar Pesach, perhaps even you'll say that it is Hutzah Tumas time, Kayan Hamaratza, but Tamid Mai. Mi Gamrina Tumas time Bepesach. Do we say that the din of Tumas time is only learned out by Pesach, but Tamid like a Miri, but not, we didn't have the Kabbalah to learn out the Halach L'Maish Sinai by the case of Tamid, Idelma Yolav Tamid Pesach? Or perhaps we should say that we should learn out the Tamid from the Korban Pesach. So the Gemara We'll see during over the next Amud what the resolution of this is.